How 6 teenagers survived 15 months shipwrecked on Uninhabited Island and miraculously escaped.
The 6 boys, aged between 13 and 19, were Luke Vacoso, Stephen Tevita Fatai Latu, Sione Fatawa, David Tevita Sayala, Kolo Fakito, and Mano Sione Felipe Totau. In June 1965, the boys ran away from St. Andrew's Anglican boarding school in Nuku'alofa on Tongatapu. They had stolen a 24-foot, 7.3 m, boat on short notice and with little preparation. After they anchored for the night, approximately 5 miles 10 kilometers north of Tongatapu, a storm broke their anchor rope. The boat's sail and rudder were destroyed quickly by the wild winds. Over the next 8 days, they drifted for almost 320 kilometers 200 miles generally southwest, bailing water from their disintegrating boat until they sighted Arta.
Stormy weather cast their boat further afloat for 8 agonizing days until they washed up on the deserted volcanic Ada Island. Sione Felipe Totau, better known as Mano, later recalled the incident in a Vice podcast. Mano said the boys arrived on the island late at night and he volunteered to leave the boat to see what was there.
I jumped off the boat and swam through the waves. When I got to the shore, I saw the whole island was twisting around, he explained, but it wasn't the island, it was me. Everything was spinning. After 8 days without food and water, finally, after catching my breath, I called out to the boys, hey, I'm here. Mano said he managed to get his first drink of water after 8 days after coming across a piece of wood that was soaking wet. And rather than let the dire situation get to them, Mano said the boys felt so alive.
We'd stepped on dry land, and that gave us far more hope than when we were drifting out at sea. He added, they were able to survive by fishing and raiding the nests of seabirds, drinking their blood and eating raw eggs. Though it took some trial and error to master their hunting techniques, and build a fire. Which took them around 3 months. After recovering some strength, the group were also able to climb onto the island's main plateau, which changed their situation.
Here they found an old clay pot, machete and some chickens which had been left behind by a small Tongan community before they were kidnapped and trafficked into slavery. Yet, rather than slipping into a dystopian Lord of the Files type nightmare, the teens worked together to survive. They built a sheltered hut out of coconut fronds, a small gym and even instruments and carving to keep themselves occupied, as well as a lookout spot for passing ship. Mano added, we started organizing everything in a roster, how to keep the fire, how to say our prayers, along with taking care of the banana palms. We all worked together as though we'd live on the island for a long time. After 15 months of being stranded, they were miraculously rescued by an Australian adventurer by the name of Peter Warner. Mano Totau 2020 interview. They were so scared because we were all naked, long hair. We all hopped in the water and swim out to the boat. Mr. Warner did not put the ladder down because they were all scared about us, but luckily we could speak to him in English and we talk. He give us a few questions, he give us a few photos from Tonga. He showed us the photo of our queen, we said, yes that's our queen, Queen Salote. Sort of testing and trying to find out if what we're telling him is true or not. On September 11, 1966, the Australian fishing boat Just David, captained by Peter Warner, approached Ada after Warner noticed patches of burned grass on the island's cliffsides. Warner, moonlighting as a fisherman operating out of Tasmania, was sailing near Ada while returning home. After spotting the unkempt, naked boys through binoculars, Just David approached cautiously, as Warner had been told that serious criminals were sometimes marooned on remote islands. When the ship was close enough, Stephen dived in and swam to the boat, explaining himself in English. To verify their story, Warner radioed their names to Nuku'alofa, and after a 20-minute wait, was told, you found them. These boys have been given up for dead. Funerals have been held. If it's them, this is a miracle. Upon later examination, all 6 boys were healthy. After an enormous celebration, the group was hired by Warner to crew a lobster boat. During the feasts, the families of the castaway boys promised to teach Warner the secrets of how and where to fish for the Pacific spiny lobster, and Warner was given a royal concession to trap the spiny lobster in Tongan waters as a reward for rescuing the group, befriending King Tufahau Tupo IV. When the boys did not show up for a party Warner was holding in their honor, he learned they had been arrested because the owner of the stolen boat pressed charges against them. Warner then arranged with Channel 7 in Sydney to film their story. He used £150 $203 from the sale of the rights to compensate the stolen boat's owner for its loss, and in return, the owner dropped the charges. The Channel 7 television crew sailed with Warner and the boys back to Ada to film a reenactment of their story, The Castaways. Sydney-based photographer John Carnmola then went back to the island with the boys to see how they'd been surviving. Their story of cooperation and survival was then retold by the Dutch historian Rutger Bregman, who wrote a book placing this real-world example of survival against the fictional story O Lord of the Flies, arguing that it shows human nature is cooperative than self-interested.